This is TWiT.
So, who won CES, Amazon or Google? That's a CNET story. What do you think, Sherilyn? Did you weigh in on this?
Oh boy, I have a personal bias, so I'm going to say Google. I think that Assistant made a bigger splash this year with Google's booth, with Google's announcements. There was a ton of it. I was briefed on some of it, so I think I'm more familiar with the news than I am with the Amazon news, and that might be why I was slightly more biased.
Did you go on the Google ride?
I did not have any time.
So Google, this is what you do if you have unlimited
it's a small
money.
World. They recreated It's a Small World.
But instead of It's a Small World, after all, they had different things you could do with Assistant.
Right.
Right.
Did
it
you
was
go
the
on
story
I
of
did not. I was going to, and then I saw the line. I said no.
Did you go, Stacy?
No, Kevin went, but it's the story of like these getting a cake for grandma's birthday.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's like an animatronic grandma that reacts to you and actually uses NLP to talk to you and react with you, well, which was kind of neat.
Fortunately, Google has posted
Google, take me on the Google Assistant ride.
A 360-degree video
for the ride of your life.
of the ride.
Oh,
so even if you weren't at CES, you can go on the ride if bandwidth permitting.
The cheese.
I only have a gigabit.
The
10
cheese
gigahertz.
hurts.
The cheese.
It's so cheese. You know, it also depended on where you spent most of your CES. If you spent it at the Sands, Amazon was more prevalent. If you spent it at LVCC, Google was more prevalent.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So
I will say,
yeah, you could turn
can't-
down this horrible music.
you
But,
can't put out a product without having Madam A, as we like to call her, integrated into it.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I talked to a lot of people. They launched with Madam A, and Google was coming in a quarter or two. And so if you think about biggest like marketing splash, biggest like presence from that perspective, Google won. But if you just think about like, hey, we've conquered this world and Google's trying to come in and take it over.
Well, that's a good point. It's kind of a catch-up play on Google's part.
Oh, it's totally
I think still,
a catch-up.
though, that the Google Assistant is getting a lot smarter than Alexa is. I would say that can already do a lot of things, and it started out as a much more capable assistant. But with the announcements at the show and all of the stuff that Google has been doing to make Assistant much more intelligent, that we're going to see Assistant become much more useful in our lives. At the show, they announced the ability to check into your flight via Google Assistant, either on your phone or wherever you're able to use Google Assistant. I think that's a game changer for someone like me who travels a lot. And then over the course of the past year, we've seen Google Duplex, we've seen Google Screen Calls, we've seen Google's Night Sight software do very well. Granted, the last one has nothing to do with Assistant, but Google's research into its artificial intelligence has a lot of implications for the year going ahead. I mean, that's where I believe is going to be. I haven't seen make leaps as much as Google has in the past year. I will say I agree that, like, again, Google's playing a sort of catch up here, but it is trying hard and it is seeming to be successful.
So I'm going to debate a little bit with you because, and I'll do this because I actually swapped out about a month ago my Google Home for my Amazon Echo, or sorry, vice versa. And I found, and I did a post on it on the site a little while ago, but Google is super smart and it has all these amazing features, but when it comes time to execute them, it sucks and it falls down. So while I was at CES, my family took the Google Smart Display and replaced it with the Echo Show because they were sick of not being able to turn on the TV. And it was a function of Amazon is doing, and the problem is Amazon is not as good at doing really cool, fancy things, but they are really good at, you bring a device in, it automatically connects. So they've been putting a lot of their attention on the blocking and tackling at the lower level. Google has been doing things like checking in on your flight, which is totally cool. It does things like, hey, when I say, it does voice recognition really well, but it took us like an hour and a half to set up voice recognition for my daughter. And we had to do, I think I complained about this on Twig. So we had to figure that out. And it still doesn't work all the time. And that's frustrating. And then when you get to like the Google G Suite split, that is also frustrating.
I'm with both of you. I prefer the Google Suite. I can do more with the Google Suite, but
sure,
what assistant did I deploy at my parents' house in Henderson, Nevada? It absolutely was Amazon. because I don't want to do troubleshooting for them every other day.
At home, I have a Google Home Max, and on top of that, an Amazon Echo Show, and on top of that, the Harman Kardon Cortana.
It's a modern totem
device.
pole.
Oh God, why?
Well,
Yeah.
you know.
When do you talk? How often do you talk to Cortana? I'm just
why
curious.
do you need Cortana?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Cortana, can you ask to do something?
We're talking about Echo and Google, but nobody's talking about Bixby or Siri or Cortana.
Oh, no, Bixby is the best.
Is it over for
Bixby
them?
is the future. No,
What are you, insane?
I don't know why that wasn't killed off so long ago.
It really is a Amazon versus Google battle at this point, right?
I think Amazon, to you guys' point, has the upper hand definitely in the smart home because it was able to integrate with so many other third-party devices early on. Google has a lot to catch up on that front, and Google's Assistant is better on a smartphone because they have a smartphone. They have a smartphone ecosystem, and Amazon doesn't.
That was a kind of funny bit of
true.
one-upmanship when Amazon said, we are now on 100 million devices. The next day, Google says, yeah, well, we're on 1 billion devices. So, but of course, that's mostly phones. That's not, that's why.
That was supposed to come out earlier, that piece of news, by the way.
Oh, really?
Just behind the scenes, yeah.
Oh, why didn't it come out earlier?
I have no idea, but they changed the date.
Interesting.